John Forte's life unfolded like a symphony, layered, unpredictable, and emotionally resonant. Known to the world as a rapper, producer, and musical architect behind some of hip-hop's most revered works, Forte was far more than a background name in liner notes. He was a visionary whose influence traveled quietly yet powerfully through generations of artists and listeners. As of now, John Forte's estimated net worth stood at around $8 million, accumulated through music royalties, production credits, film scoring, touring, and long-term creative partnerships. Unlike many artists who measured success in luxury and excess, Forte's wealth was rooted in intellectual property, artistic respect, and cultural capital. His fortune never defined him. His ideas did. His sudden passing in January 2026 stunned the music world, leaving behind unanswered questions, unfinished projects, and a legacy that continues to echo far beyond the charts. Early life. Roots in Brooklyn. John Edward Forte was born on January 30th, 1975 in Brownsville, Brooklyn, a neighborhood known equally for its hardship and its creative resilience. Growing up in New York City during the late 1970s and 1980s, Forte was surrounded by cultural noise, sirens, conversations, street rhythms that later shaped his musical intuition. While he remained intensely private about his parents and siblings, Forte often spoke about being raised with strong values around discipline, learning, and self-expression. His family recognized his aptitude early and supported his pursuit of music, even when it diverged from conventional paths. A classical foundation. At just 8 years old, Forte chose the violin during a school music program, an unexpected choice in a neighborhood dominated by street sounds rather than orchestral strings. That decision would become foundational. He trained rigorously, developing an understanding of melody, harmony, and structure that later distinguished his hip-hop compositions from his peers. Elite education and intellectual growth. His exceptional academic and artistic abilities earned him a scholarship to Phillips Exeter Academy, one of the most prestigious preparatory schools in the United States. There, Forte honed not only his musicianship, but also his analytical thinking and literary depth. He graduated in 1993, already balancing classical music discipline with a growing fascination for hip-hop culture. Following Exeter, Forte enrolled at New York University, studying music business. The choice was strategic. He wanted to understand not just how music was made, but how it moved through the world. At NYU, he roomed with fellow student Talib Kweli, and the two immersed themselves in music, philosophy, and lyrical experimentation. Though Forte did not complete his degree, his time at NYU placed him directly at the intersection of creativity and industry. Personal life. Marriage and family life. John Forte was married to Lara Fuller, a professional photographer whose artistic sensitivity mirrored his own. Together, they built a life centered on creativity, privacy, and intention. The couple had 2 children, a daughter named Wren and a son named Hale. Fatherhood profoundly changed Forte. Friends and collaborators often described how his priorities shifted, from relentless artistic ambition to intentional presence. He spoke openly about how becoming a father grounded him, reshaped his understanding of legacy, and influenced his later compositions. Spiritual outlook. Forte did not publicly identify with a single organized religion. Instead, his spirituality was introspective and philosophical. His lyrics, interviews, and compositions reflected influences from Eastern philosophy, existential thought, and humanist values. He viewed music itself as sacred, a vehicle for healing, truth, and connection. Beyond music. Outside of rapping and producing, Forte worked extensively in film scoring, documentary composition, and cultural consulting. He lent his musical voice to projects focused on social justice, history, and identity. These works allowed him to express ideas that did not fit traditional song structures, expanding his creative vocabulary beyond albums and singles. Professional career. Breaking into hip-hop. Forte's entry into the music industry was unconventional. He began working in A&R at Rawkus Records, one of the most influential independent hip-hop labels of the 1990s. This role gave him early exposure to the business mechanics of music, while keeping him close to emerging talent. His life changed dramatically when he was introduced to Lauryn Hill, who quickly recognized his lyrical depth and musical intelligence. Through Hale, Forte became closely affiliated with the Fugees, joining their creative orbit at a pivotal moment. The Fugees era. Forte played a critical role in the score 1996, one of the most celebrated albums in hip-hop history. While he was not an official group member, his contributions as a writer and producer were essential. Songs like Cowboys and Family Business bore his fingerprints, layered storytelling, emotional nuance, and musical sophistication. The album's global success brought Forte acclaim, industry respect, and Grammy recognition. Yet he remained largely behind the scenes, content with the integrity of the work rather than public spotlight. Solo career. In 1998, Forte released his debut solo album, Poli-Sci, produced by Wyclef Jean. The album showcased his intellectual lyricism and experimental instincts. While it did not achieve mainstream commercial success, it earned critical respect and a devoted cult following. Forte continued collaborating with a wide range of artists across genres, including legendary musicians outside hip-hop. His adaptability made him a bridge between worlds, classical and contemporary, mainstream and underground. Legal crisis and incarceration. In 2000, Forte's life took a devastating turn. He was arrested at Newark Airport for possession of a controlled substance after agreeing to transport a briefcase he did not pack himself. Despite being a first-time offender, he was sentenced to 14 years in federal prison under mandatory minimum sentencing laws. The sentence shocked the music community. Many viewed it as disproportionately severe. For Forte, incarceration marked both an ending and a painful rebirth. Creativity behind bars. While imprisoned, Forte refused to let his identity dissolve. He composed music, reflected deeply, and recorded material under extraordinary constraints. His prison-era album, John, became a testament to resilience and introspection. Advocacy from prominent figures, including musicians, activists, and political leaders, eventually led to his sentence commutation in 2008. Redemption and reinvention. After his release, Forte returned with renewed clarity. Rather than chasing fame, he focused on meaningful projects, mentorship, and personal growth. He released new music, scored films, and became a vocal advocate for criminal justice reform, using his own experience to illuminate systemic issues. House tour and car collection. John Forte lived intentionally, avoiding public displays of excess. Home. He resided in Chilmark, Martha's Vineyard, in a quiet, nature-rich environment that doubled as a creative sanctuary. The home reflected his values, peace, privacy, and artistic focus. Cars. There is no public record of a luxury car collection. Forte did not equate success with material accumulation, preferring simplicity over spectacle. College career. Forte's college years at NYU were less about credentials and more about immersion. Studying music business, he gained first-hand exposure to contract structures, artist development, and label operations. These insights later empowered him to navigate the industry with autonomy and caution. Though he left before graduating, his academic experience directly fueled his professional rise, bridging education with execution. Cause of death. John Forte passed away on January 12, 2026, at the age of 50. After being found unresponsive in his home. Authorities reported no signs of foul play. At the time of reporting, the official cause of death had not been publicly confirmed. It was known that Forte had experienced serious health challenges in the preceding year. Out of respect for his family, further details remained private. John Forte's life resists simplification. He was not merely a rapper. He was not just a producer. He was not defined by tragedy or redemption. He was a thinker, a composer, a father, and a cultural architect whose work spoke quietly but carried immense weight. Forte's legacy lives in timeless albums, in the artists he inspired, in the conversations he started, and in the courage it took to rebuild after loss. His story reminds us that brilliance is not always loud, and that some of the most profound contributions are made by those who refuse to be ordinary, even when the world demands it. John Forte did not finish his symphony, but what he left behind still resonates.